Hello, my name is erikterenmullins, and I've spent the past 9 years working my butt off on my own manga comic book called Blithe. And while I've been doing this, I've been watching a ton of anime. I mostly watch dubbed, and if ever I'm given that miraculous free time, then I'll watch subtitled if given the chance. Okay, let's talk ToraDora and where we are on the fence about it. I've watched my fair share of rom-coms in my life, and I gotta be honest, this one really sets the golden standard, for me personally, on that genre. That being said, it's not completely without its issues. Stick around till the end, because there is one crucial fact about this show you absolutely can't miss out on. Let's get into it. The series was released from 2008 to 2009. With a beautifully animated fluidity and high quality level of artwork, it spans 26 episodes with a 27th episode as an OAV. There are also 4 mini shorts in the series. ToraDora. What a crazy zany name. But I guess with today's contenders, it's pretty average. It's basically the word tiger fused with the word dragon in Japanese. This being due to the fact that the main protagonist Taiga is referred to as a sort of tiger, and the other protagonist Takasu mentions he would become a dragon to stand tall next to her. Pretty cute, right? This is Ryuji Takasu. He's a super kind-hearted person that just wants to make friends and make other people happy and everyone just to get along. Always doing things for others whenever he can, most people seem to fear him due to his face being scary stuff. A lot of the other characters thinking he's part of a gang, so they steer completely clear of him whenever they can. Of course, this is all in the beginning. He's obsessed with keeping things tidy and clean. Like, really. He loves cooking, and I guess he's just extremely responsible all around. He has a nervous twitch of playing with his front bangs, which they don't do too often, but it is still prevalent throughout the series. He has an annoying, fugly bird named Inko that is treated as any realistic household would treat a pet bird they love. His father isn't around, and his mother Yasuko is incredibly overworked to make sure he turns out to be an all-around great person. Rewatching this series at an older age has allowed me to really appreciate her quite a bit, but more on this later. Here we have Taiga Aisaka. At the beginning of the series, you may not like her. Her personality is very rough around the edges. She's part of the 1% and just does whatever she wants with extreme passion, most of the time somewhat violent, getting away with whatever because the teachers fear her in the beginning. She's incredibly tiny, and most people that see her compare her to a little doll of sorts. This is until they actually see her in action. She lives in an apartment building on her own, as she doesn't get along with her separated family. This apartment building looms right over Ryuji's place. She is literally the girl next door. I'd say the leading cause for a lot of people not investing in this show is Taiga. She is very disagreeable as a person, and I'd say it's around episode 8 when they are setting up a pool event that you start to sympathize with her. It's done very realistically in its depiction, and of a person of Taiga's small frame. But you gotta get to that episode, and 8 episodes in is not always easy. These two both have crushes on each other's friends, best friends no less, and they decide to work together in order to play matchmaker. But of course, could they maybe fall for one another throughout the school year? This show is a solid rom-com, perfectly balanced, with its romance, jokes, drama, the storytelling, and overall structure of the entire series is just coherent and all around well done. But I do have a few discrepancies that perhaps will make you want to skip this series altogether. Now it's super best friends time. Here we have Minori Kushoeda, Taiga's best friend, Meeeenoooreeeeen. She's an all-around supergirl, working multiple jobs, managing the school's baseball teams while playing, and has a hardcore upbeat attitude. Extroverted doesn't even begin to express her level of extra. She makes a ton of Japanese references and jokes throughout the series, and the dub attempts to translate them while keeping the Japanese jokes in question, so most of you won't understand her slightly crazy antics and all of these clever word games Our on-spot acting sequences will be completely lost for the average Western viewer. For a baseball player, this is a swing and a miss, Minori, but it's not your fault. I'd say it's the writing in question that hadn't been translated for an outside Japanese audience. Now, obviously, this person is overcompensating for something in an attempt to hide away her emotional state throughout the series. It gets so frustrating because if she just expressed herself properly, then things in this show would have taken a vastly different direction. But it's realistic in its depiction. I mean, not many of us are able to just tell others how we truly feel romantically, or even if we have some sort of mental health issues. One thing that some of you might not be comfortable with this show is the constant jokes that she makes involving her diet and keeping a girl's body in shape. It's an archaic slew of jokes that as this show gets older, less and less people will find Minori's eating disorder funny. Yasuko Kitamura is Ryuji's best pal, and oh boy is he ever happy to have him. Kitamura is a very passionate person and kind of an airhead because of it. You'll think he's smart because of his anime glasses. And he dishes out a few moments here and there of clarity throughout the series, but he really doesn't usually have a clue. He's more of the actions speak louder than words type, but then you see him yelling out his words just as loud as his actions. He gets some decent character development in the series, but oddly enough, it feels a little out of place. And I think that they should have worked his story a little more in comparison to so many of the other main characters. He also tends to flirt quite often with Taiga, but doesn't actually pursue, which gets very frustrating to watch, as this can only build someone up for major drama in the real world. Finishing up the round of main characters, we have the fashion model and manipulative, sometimes mean girl, Ami. So, Ami Kawashima seems to always be there in most situations, and living in the world of adults with her career tends to have her as a somewhat more mature person. Throughout the series, she constantly says little lines here and there that build up who she is and emotional issues she goes through. If you don't pay close attention, you may find yourself caring the least for her. But dang, I would say acting like an adult can sure make your life lonely and sometimes depressing. I was really hoping for an episode that could push her out of her shell. Shame she didn't get this, though it does happen. It's just lightly sprinkled throughout the show as a whole, so pay attention to her and you'll appreciate her more by the end of it all. There are a lot of moments where she flirts with Ryuji, but because of her direct yet teasing tactics, you find yourself getting annoyed with both of the characters in a lot of these situations. And that's pretty much it for the main characters. However, I do have one honorable mention, and that's Ryuji's mother, Yasuko Kitamura. Character development for her is crazy amazing. She's a pretty curvy girl that is bubbly, positive, and upbeat. Her occupation is that of an escort of sorts at parties, bars, and events, one that is kind of frowned upon in a place like Japan. She ran away from home and had her child, raising and nurturing him with positivity and all the possible opportunities she could get for him. When you see her in the show, she's either a little drunk or completely exhausted, willing to work more than one job if she has to in order to make her son's life the best it can possibly be. This, in turn, made Ryuji a very responsible person, as he constantly needs to take care of her. She gets the money, while he does the rest. From food, cleaning, washing, and all those daily chores, the show really makes you get annoyed with her at many times. However, if you watch it from her perspective and all the things she does just to make ends meet, you tend to respect her hustle quite a bit, especially when you, the viewer, can relate with experiencing some of these major life issues. Cost of living is rough for some people, especially when you have a kid to think about and no one helping you do it. ToraDora has a slew of side characters introduced early in the series, each one having mild character development that gives us a decent amount of closure by the end of it all. This show spans the length of a full school year and it hits all those anime school tropes that you can think of, with the exception of a hot spring episode. The classic reoccurring themes throughout the rom-com genre are not just shoehorned in there though, it's developed throughout the series. When we get the school culture festival episode, it spans for more than a single episode, with one leading up to it and actually one closing things off and starting up our next drama or story arc because of it. This makes the whole series incredibly coherent. Pacing is something the show does extremely well. We get the Xmas episode, the beach episode, a sort of test of courage sort of episode, and finally a big class trip, which is very different from any other series that pushes class trips, and the same could be said about all the other events as well. One thing I need to mention is that it's a little frustrating how their class just seems to dominate everything all the time. I want more stakes, please. Or aren't there other classes that do things too? No? No? Oh. Okay. This makes things feel as though nothing exists outside their bubble, but at least we get to follow their teacher a little bit. It's rough. Her whole evolution in life is kind of depressing. Perhaps it's funny for a younger audience, but when you're working hard at your career and things around you fall apart, it just comes off as so sad. Like, here is this rom-com anime about 17-year-old students who will hook up with who. Teacher doesn't care. She's going through real adult problems. I guess it is sort of funny. Gotta laugh at rough times in life once in a while. Makes it hurt less. The music is kinda only okay. With the exception to a very select few songs, the rest sounds a lot like mall or elevator music. It doesn't detract from the show, however, it's still worth mentioning. There are 2 intros and outros, with the second one kicking in at about episode 17 or so. I personally prefer the first intro. I like how it goes with the high energy of the series. The second one is accompanied by more dramatic scenes to go with the shift in tone the series takes in its final strides. One thing I'd like to mention that if there are songs that play throughout the series, they keep them in Japanese, which is awesome, because there's nothing more cringy than seeing a voice actor being forced under contract to sing an English version of a song when perhaps they don't have a vocal range, and then it just sounds terrible. Speaking of cringy, we do get a couple of vocabulary and words used up every now and then where we're hearing slang from like the year 2006, and this did not age well at all. Saying things like,
"Man, this game is boring."
You dare challenge probabilitism?
I'll flip the cat back and roll the dice. Don't step to the wizard, cause the wizard.
Too many dungeons and all that. Updated for the non-double deuce. Available wherever dope games are sold.
They also use the term, "it's no skin off my nose," quite often, as so many shows did back then. This can also be, "it's no skin off my back," and for real, there are so many good analogies to imply indifference. I personally just can't stand these ones, which have been used to death in anime. Oh, finally, we got to this moment. The most extremely important thing about the series ToraDora. Stick around for the end credit scenes for episode 16 and episode 25. The most important one being episode 25. If you don't wait for the complete end, it's very possible you're not going to enjoy this series. Just because of that. It's wild what a single minute can do and what it can change in the entire show. Let's just say that it really makes everything full circle. So stick around. There's also the OAV, or episode 27 if it were. ToraDora Bental Battle was released in 2011, a couple years after the series ended. It came packaged in with the DVD. Apparently it was like an unaired episode, but I would say the last 30 seconds to minute of that episode would require you to finish the whole series. But the episode itself, I'd say, takes place right after number 13. So maybe this could be like a 13.5. Don't wait to watch it there though. For real, watch the whole series, watch this after. The last minute, it's kind of important. This episode is pretty funny. It's all about how Ryuji is trying to make a better bento lunchbox than his friend Kitamura's grandmother has been making for him. It's light, Though in truth, I was kind of hoping that the whole episode would take place after the series, like a Where Are They Now? That would have been so cool. Oh well. And finally, we've got ToraDora SOS. It's a 4-part little mini short series, came out in 2009, and they're about 5 minutes a pop, completely dubbed by the original cast, which is something rare for shorts. For continuity, I'd say they probably take place somewhere in the middle of the series as well. Everyone is drawn in a cute chibi art style, which is light, ridiculous, and cheap. But Taiga in these shorts is the same height as everyone else, which I wasn't a fan of. They are all about food, and Minori is constantly eating and everything, which feels a little at odds with her original character development of somehow having a bit of a mild eating disorder. There are a ton of fun facts that they try to teach the viewers, and they really cram in a ton of them for real, along with like little jokes that aren't super funny. These were very difficult for me to get through, and they were only 5 minutes. All 4 of them, I just needed them to end. Luckily for you, nothing of consequence happens in any of these, so you can skip them if you want to. And that's pretty much it for ToraDora. I really had to dig deep to try and find things that weren't so great for this show, as it's definitely one of my favorite rom-coms. Its well-balanced story structure and multi-dimensional characters, for the most part, have always been a huge inspiration for me when writing my manga Blithe. So I'm definitely subjective in my opinion for a lot of things here. It definitely had a few downs, but I'd say there are so many resounding ups, it's absolutely worth your time. But perhaps you aren't convinced. Be sure to write down in the comments section what you loved or hated about ToraDora. I love a good conversation. If you like my video just a little, be sure to hit that like and that subscribe button, and where is it? Here we go. That notification bell, so you don't miss out on future videos. So what can I say to sum up ToraDora? There is something in this world which no one has ever seen. It's soft and sweet. If it's spotted, I'm sure everyone will want to have it, which is why no one's ever seen it. For this world has hidden it quite well, and so that it's difficult to obtain. But there will come a day when it's discovered by somebody, and only those who should obtain it will be able to find it. That's all.